Hello everyone! Today I'm doing the Book Courtship Tag. I was not tagged to do this tag, but I've been wanting to do it for such a long time. So let's just jump right into this. Phase 1, Initial Attraction. A book you bought because of the cover. I don't do this very often. I mean, the cover has a lot to do with me looking at the book to begin with, but I normally don't buy a book unless I've read the summary and find it interesting. But there is one exception to this rule. It had a pretty cover and it was really cheap, so I decided to just pick it up without even looking at the summary. Unearthly by Cynthia Han. I still really have no clue what this book is about, but you have to admit this is a beautiful cover, even with that stupid sticker across the front. Phase 2, First Impression. A book you bought because of the summary. Like I just got through saying, I don't buy a book really unless I love the summary, so all of these books could go to this one. But one book that I've heard nothing about that I bought because of the summary was The Heartbreakers by Ali Novak. This book basically follows a girl named Stella who goes to get her sister's favorite band's autograph. Well, a lot of craziness ensues and she does end up getting that autograph, but she also ends up getting much more. I actually have a review video up for this book, so if you want to know more about it, I will leave that video linked below. Phase 3, Sweet Talk, a book with great writing. You can really take great writing in several different ways. I personally have really not read that many books where I haven't specifically liked the writing. It's more or less the plot and character development I usually don't like. But a book with a very unique writing style that I at first didn't like and grew to love would be Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. I found it so hard to get into the writing style of this book series, but I really came to love and appreciate that writing style once I got into it. So to me, this book really has great writing, though I know a lot of you probably disagree because this is a hard book to get into because of the writing style alone. Phase 4, First Date. A first book of a series that made you want to pick up the rest of the series. Normally if I start a series, I'm going to finish that series whether I like the first book or not, because sometimes first books can be a little slow and hard to get into, but the second book can be like spectacular. But one book that stands out in my mind as making me want to pick up the rest of the series right away is Frostfire by Amanda Hocking. I picked up this book right after I finished the Trill Trilogy by Amanda Hocking, and I found that I loved the storyline a lot more than I liked the Trill Trilogy, which was saying a lot because I already really enjoyed the Trill Trilogy. It's been a while since I've read this book, so I can't really remember if there was like one specific thing that made me want to continue on with the series, but I do recall one of my favorite things was the there but not there love triangle. I mean, it was like a love triangle in her head, but there wasn't actually a love triangle. And it was interesting to see how that played out through all 3 books. Phase 5, Late Night Phone Calls. A book that kept you up all night. I do a majority of my reading at night, so this could be a lot of books. But I'm going with a book that I read all night and also finished. Divergent. I read this book in one sitting. It was unexpectedly spectacular. I went into this book with really low expectations. I hadn't seen the movies. I had only heard people talking about the book. I hadn't really read any reviews for it. So when I actually got to reading it, I couldn't stop. And I love that because there's not many books that do that to me. Phase 6, Always on My Mind. A book you could not stop thinking about. There's not really a specific book I always think about. I mean, there's Harry Potter and Percy Jackson that are always like in the back of my mind because I love those book series. But I feel like everyone answers one of those 2 book series, so I want to go with something different. When I'm reading a book, it's constantly on my mind until I finish it, and usually a couple days after. So I'm just going to go with the book that I'm currently reading, and that is Until the Beginning by Amy Plum. I'm currently halfway through this book, and it's what's currently on my mind. Phase 7, Getting Physical. A book that you love the way it feels. I'm gonna be honest with you, I literally spent 10 minutes going through my bookshelf and just feeling all of the books to see which one I liked the feel of more. And the winner of this little competition was More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera, the paperback edition. And this book, it's just go to the bookstore and feel this book because it feels really nice. It's like a rough texture, and I just love the way it feels. Phase 8, Meeting the Parents. A book which you would recommend to your family and friends. I had a really hard time coming up with a book for this phase. That's mainly because my family and friends that do read don't like reading anything that I read. I mean, they don't like sci-fi or fantasy or paranormal or dystopian, and they don't like to read middle grade or young adults. So I was thinking, what could I possibly recommend that I've read that I think they would enjoy? Especially considering the only thing they really read is romance. So the book I decided that I would recommend for my family and friends to read is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And I would technically consider this new adult, even though I think it's technically YA. But I feel that they could get some enjoyment out of reading this book. Even though it's not heavy romance, I don't have a book that's heavily romanced. So this is the book I decided to pick for them. The reason I'd recommend this book is because I just found it so cute and funny and a real quick read. I think if they actually gave it a chance, they would really enjoy it. Phase 9, Thinking About the Future. A book or series that you know you'll read many times in the future. I'm going to shock you guys and not say Harry Potter, because even though I reread Harry Potter at least once a year, I normally don't actually get to reread the entire series. But the book I choose probably won't be much of a surprise. Percy Jackson by Rick Riordan. I love this book series. I love all of Rick Riordan's books. I've already read this series twice, and I do think in the future I will reread not only this series, but the Heroes of Olympus series and the Trials of Apollo series, and I will eventually start the other series, and I feel that I will probably reread them as well. So Percy Jackson. Phase 10, Share the Love. Who do you tag? Since this is a very old tag and I'm not really sure who all has done it, I'm not going to tag anyone specific. So if you're watching this video, you have not done this tag before, and you have a YouTube channel, then I tag you to do this tag. Well, that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!